Hey, it's Mac. When I went looking to validate what Brittany said about her parents, I really didn't realize, I didn't think that I would find that article from the Daily Beast about Jamie admitting that he told Kevin to withhold access to the kids in February 2007. And that date, that time frame is really, really important because when you go back and you look through all of the tabloid articles prior to her filing for divorce, there are no allegations of mental illness. There's no allegations of substance abuse. And we've already proven that she had no public relations team protecting Brittany, the person. If there had been allegations of mental illness, if there had been incidents that were covered up and hidden, if there had been, wild drug abuse that was being covered up and hidden, um, I mean, we would know about it because there was no PR team to do that. So Jamie is really fond of saying that nobody knows how bad it was with Brittany. Jamie Lynn writes in her book that they had all covered for her for years. And when you ask questions, all of that just falls apart. I mean, proximity matters, you know? They didn't have proximity to Brittany. So I think Brittany leaves home at like 15 years old. And like Lynn doesn't go with her. Okay. She hires Felicia to go in her place. Um, Jamie was never really around, even before I think she left the house. And when he was around, he was making everybody miserable with his alcoholism. So, I mean, what do you mean you guys were covering for her? For Jamie Lynn to say that when she hadn't lived with her since she was like 5 years old. And I know that Jamie Lynn is just repeating the family talking points. And the family talking points are Brittany's the worst person ever. Brittany got what she deserved. Brittany is a known substance abuse user. Brittany is mentally ill. She's crazy. She's a terrible mother. She's all of these things. And I think they just said them over and over again until they believe them. But when you ask questions, none of it makes any sense. Like, what are you talking about? We don't know, Jamie. You weren't around. So not only was Jamie not around, but Jamie doesn't have any stories about seeing Brittany do drugs firsthand. You have Kevin saying that he never saw her do drugs. He said that in the custody evaluation in 2008. So any story that he says to the contrary doesn't hold up. What do you mean? Um, she had no public relations team to bury stories about drug use or mental illness. There's nobody to cover for her. What do you mean you covered for her? What about Jamie and his alcoholism? Jamie went to rehab. That was like all over the place in 2004. What are you talking about? You covered for her. He was the one that everybody knew had a really big problem. He's the one that threatened a reporter with a knife and like wouldn't let her leave. You know, these stories about knives and them and Brittany having knives and whatever, like the crazy thing is these people understand that no one's going to challenge them to their face about what they're saying. Um, the first thing that somebody should have said to Kevin during his book tour, what do you mean about Brittany and knives? Jamie Lynn was in a pita restaurant threatening people with a knife. Jamie is known, like there's an actual story written by a reporter who says Jamie threatened her with a knife. What are you talking about? Um, and now Kevin admits that he was doing drugs. And the problem with Jamie saying that, openly admitting in February 2007 that they told Kevin to withhold access to the kids unless Brittany went to rehab is that there's no proof there was a substance abuse problem. Jamie has his lawyers say that Jamie saw Brittany shave her head and therefore assumed she must be a drug addict. So he flew out to Los Angeles and held an intervention. But Jamie wasn't there. So they set up the intervention. Like, here's the timeline. Jamie says Brittany's doing drugs and alcohol, but he's not at the intervention. Kevin says he never personally saw Brittany doing drugs during their marriage. Larry says that Larry gives Kevin the cocaine allegation. Brittany denies having a drug problem. So all this stuff starts in like February 2007, which is only like 3 months after the divorce filing, right? So all of this time, there are no known issues with Britney Spears. That the craziest thing about all of this and their allegations against her about these substance abuse stuff is that she was being followed 24/7. She was like the most hunted person on the planet. Don't you think that if she had had a substance abuse problem and she was doing drugs at a club, somebody would have grabbed that picture and sold it for $1 million. They were able to get away with all of this because nobody's asking questions, not even hard questions, like easy questions. Jamie, you say we don't know, but she was the most hunted person on the planet. She couldn't go anywhere without being photographed. She was being followed by 50 photographers at all time. They were so desperate to get pictures of her doing something that they would literally like harass the hell out of her. What are you talking about? We don't know. You don't fucking know. And here's the craziest part. The only person who says they have a firsthand account of seeing Britney do drugs, yeah, he didn't work for Britney until like March of 2007. So there's this intervention in February, but this guy didn't even work for her until like March through May. So, and he was like a disgruntled employee. So nobody asked questions, nobody pushed back. None of what they say makes any sense, especially when you like the thing that really needs to be questioned here, and I think this is what proves more than anything, that one story right there proves that Brittany was right, that her parents had actively worked to set her up because they had gotten the idea for the conservatorship from Lou Taylor. That story right there from February 2007, it demonstrates to me, and should to everybody else, that she was absolutely right. Um, this isn't okay, so putting aside their allegations that she had had a substance abuse problem for God knows how long, according to them, they're always vague, of course. Let's play that out for a second. Let's play it out. Let's say that she developed a substance abuse problem and a drinking problem after she filed for divorce in 3 months. There are celebrities, there are individuals like Jamie Spears who go for years having problems with alcoholism. So Jamie had a problem with alcoholism for years and years and years. Nobody threatened to take his kids away unless he went to rehab. And all of this happens within 3 months. So in 3 months, the situation becomes so dire that the only thing that you can think to do is take away her children. Not anything in between. Not having a conversation with her, not hiring a sober coach, um, so she doesn't have to go to rehab, right? Like, just get a sober coach, not finding her a therapist to talk to. The reason why part of her probation includes talking to therapy is because now they feel like people abuse substances and because they're trying to, cope with something that's happened to them. So it wasn't to get her with a good therapist. It wasn't to get her a new team that would support her. It wasn't to maybe take her on a vacation and let her get some rest. No, your response was to take away her children. That doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up. But you know what it does align with? It doesn't align with anything they said. But what it does align with is the idea that you saw her shave her head. The media framed it as she was losing her mind. And you realized, like, this is our chance to get her, to force her into rehab. Because by getting her to go on her own terms voluntarily, right? That makes it seem like she's agreeing she has a problem. And if she has a problem, then we can justify the conservatorship. So, I mean, I really didn't think I was going to be able to prove it. And really, like, by Jamie running his mouth and being all proud of what he did, by Kevin bragging about his substance abuse in his book, you can now look back at everything and go, it was just a setup. There was no concern for Brittany. There were all of these things they could have done. Kevin likes to say that talking point that Kevin repeats is, well, everything that could be done was done. That's not true. Like, that was never true. But that's why they wanted her to agree to go to rehab. That's why they hammered at her until she, like, I think it was like 3 times they forced her into rehab. They drugged her once and kidnapped her. And then another time they got her to go, but like she checked out the next day. And then they finally got her the third time to stay. They needed that because when they went to court, that was how they said, look, we've done everything we can do. Rehab's not taking. She's gone 3 times. That's how they helped justify the conservatorship. So here we are, you know? Nothing they say holds up under questioning. It's just nobody asked questions, you know? You cannot say Britney Spears had some severe issues from like 2000 to like 2008 and the public doesn't know about it. when people were like climbing over other people to sell her out. It's just not possible. If there had been some horrific events in the early 2000s, her family probably would have been the first people to sell that story. It's incredibly sad. Um, I hope though, by like investigating and confirming what she said, and again, I do believe that the chain of events really does align with the idea that they took the kids away in order to break her mentally and not because she was having mental problems to begin with. That there's nothing that supports that at all. There's nothing that supports a substantial substance abuse problem. There's nothing that demonstrates that she had a severe mental illness. And again, how her own family treated her once the conservatorship was put into place contradicts the idea that it was to ever help her. You don't, again, slavery is not a prescribed treatment for mental illness or severe addiction. It's pretty much the opposite. You have multiple celebrities ending tours and never touring again because of the toll that it takes on you. You have generations of performers who did drugs just to get through a grueling tour schedule. Like the 80s, the 70s, the 80s, well known for it, I'm sure into the 90s as well. Like, but I think most damningly about this entire situation is Jamie's own admitted substance abuse and alcoholism and Kevin's own admitted substance abuse. Those are the most damning things because you retroactively go, if you guys were all struggling with this, why was she the person that got her rights taken away? Why did nobody put you in a conservatorship? Why did nobody withhold access to your children? You admittedly were doing these things. There's no proof she was. In fact, it's to the contrary. People would attest and testify. The people who didn't end up staying on the conservatorship payroll would attest to the fact that she was a great mom who really loved her kids. Even TMZ wrote in the beginning that she was never going to give up custody of those kids. Other celebrities have been happy to walk away from their kids, but not Britney. She fought for those kids. So what do you mean she poisoned them with shellfish? And I strongly maintain, like, if you're not going to take somebody to court over intentional poisoning, like really, like even that, like, Kevin writes now, well, I didn't do those things. I didn't do anything about it. He's trying to cover for his lack of action, right? He's trying to cover for what was really going on. He says he didn't really believe it. Well, that's something you can definitively prove. Like if a child is allergic to shellfish and therefore fed shellfish, that usually results in anaphylactic shock, right? Or some sort of allergic reaction that has to be immediately treated. So what do you mean you didn't believe it? Was there a reaction? Was it medically treated? And that's the thing about that lawsuit with the security guard who I don't think any of that was real. I think that he was probably put up to it. I think he was probably paid. I think all of the allegations are either there's like a grain of truth to it, or it's all complete fiction in order to justify the conservatorship. And it's something that could have been easily disproved if somebody had wanted to. He says that she poisoned the kids with shellfish. They had an allergic reaction. Here's the medical records. There's nothing. There's just nothing. Here's the firsthand account of how he treated that. Shellfish allergy can be pretty dire. I mean, I think it can be as bad. I have a shellfish allergy, so what am I saying? I think there's varying degrees of shellfish allergies, like levels of it, maybe. I don't know. It makes me sick to my stomach, but I'm not somebody who's prone to anaphylactic shock. I'm more prone to like hives. But some people, that shellfish allergy, that fish allergy can be as bad as like consuming peanuts for some people. So to say that you didn't think that warranted action, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, these people and the way they brag about the crimes they've committed and what they've gotten away with, that in and of itself is just, it's insane. And like, where are the actual journalists instead of just a part-time investigative journalist? Like, where are they? How is this situation like not a bigger story? I don't know. Anyway, that's it. Send y'all truth, love, and light. Sincerely, Mac.